morning, everyone. I have to say, I walked in here this morning and I had a moment. I was thinking back to 1987 when I was in Silicon Valley, and I drove out there all the way from the East Coast in an old broken down car with everything I owned in the car. And I looked around, and if we'd had a tech conference for women then, there would have been 5 of us around the table. And I think what's safe to say is, but they haven't solved one thing, though. I have to say, I was in the queue in the bathroom. At a tech conference, you just need to make all the bathrooms for women. Anyway, I'm just so happy to be here. There's nothing that warms my heart more than to be with other women who are on this journey, the fellow travelers, and I consider you all fellow travelers on this journey. So from the energy in this room, I can tell you're all going to have a fantastic day. But I first have to say, I have to thank the wonderful Vanessa and all the women and men who work at WeAreTechWomen and We Are the City for bringing us together, because it's forums like this where we rise up, we learn from each other, and we elevate all women in the process. So throughout my career, it's been the support of my peers, that really, primarily women, that has made all the difference, that has given me the confidence I need to achieve much more than I could have ever achieved on my own. Now, Vanessa asked me to talk about kind of a tough topic today. Why do we need to disrupt the tech industry? Now, with the revelations of the past several months from the giants of Silicon Valley, it's clear that our industry has a lot to answer for. Just this weekend, a spokesman from a company I'm not going to name said that the company wasn't doing enough to prevent its platform from being used to foment division and incite offline violence. Now, that's quite an indictment, ladies. And it's true that, our industry really has to respond to this. Now, we as the leaders and future leaders must ensure that responsibility and accountability are core values baked into the products and services we create. And we must have zero tolerance for companies, and we must insist they do the same. Over the past 30 years, I've had the opportunity to see many waves of technology disruption, revolutions that have come and gone and left our lives changed for the better. But this moment feels different. This one seems to be shaking society and culture and challenging us in ways that we were never challenged before. Ways that we must understand and learn from in order to avoid this kind of reckoning, the kind of reckoning we are experiencing now, for our industry to happen again in years to come. Today, I'd like to tackle 2 seemingly different topics, which represent unprecedented hope for women and unprecedented challenges to our industry and women in particular. Now, the first topic is power. Plain and simple, how do we get it, and what are the responsibilities that come along with it? And the second topic is the use of the rise of artificial intelligence, what it means for society, and what perils it holds for women empowerment and equality. Now, these issues may seem at odds, but they share common elements, and both require our immediate attention. Starting with power, and specifically about women taking power, earlier this month, something spectacular happened across the Atlantic. In spite of the hate and vitriol that women in politics face online, the daily drumming of misogyny and hate-filled tweets, women rose up in the 2018 U.S. elections, resulting in a massive win across the political spectrum. A win that included a historic first, the first 2 women, Muslim women, to enter the Congress, the first 2 Native American women to enter Congress. And that's incredible. And you might be asking, wow, it took that long? But it matters that we acknowledge and recognize this. Now, I read another quote recently just trying to get ready for today, and it was from Nancy Pelosi, who's one of the leading women in politics in the U.S. And she said, "No one gives you power, you have to take it from them." Now, ladies, let's unpick that a little bit. The uncomfortable truth is that all too often, because we are women, our opportunities are limited, our accomplishments can be diminished, and God knows our voices are talked over and mansplained. And all too often, women are judged by different standards, too. In a book by Jennifer Palmieri, she talks about, her book is an open letter to the women who will rule the world. And she talks about this widespread nebulous reality by this impossibly long acronym, and that is, there's something about her I just don't like. Now, this prevailing attitude lurks under the surface, and we have to call it out because it's truly holding us back. But going back to Nancy's quote, we cannot let this become a zero-sum game, and I win, you lose. Ladies, that's what men have been doing for a long time. Yes, it's true that we must assert ourselves and claim what we rightfully deserve, but we also must approach this from a position of abundance, not deficit. And the way we do that is to support one another. It is my steadfast belief that real power is defined by how many women you take along with you. And I'm not talking about followers on your social network. I mean the real women that stand up beside you and that you stand beside them. The women you can call in the middle of the night, the women who laugh out loud and tell you honestly when you've made a mistake, and those who also tell you they've done something that absolutely sucks. Women who will lend you their best outfit so that you can feel great and take on the world. This network, your real social network, isn't about your followers on Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn. It's the real relationships that sustain us, and that's the point. There is something more powerful than taking power, and that's having it and sharing it and elevating all women in the process. Now, looking back at my career, there are so many amazing women I've worked with along the way, women I still call my closest friends. I tear up with pride when I hear about their accomplishments, and I think about the amazing women that they've become. And I love them all dearly because we've traveled along this path together. We've helped each other, and we've made sure that as many others as possible came along with us. And when we get together, all of us here today, sometime again in the future, you will no doubt be able to talk about, with great pride, the progress you've made in your careers, the technological advances that you will develop and bring to market, the products you will create that will help us live better lives. But we must ensure that what we do and what we build leads to a better society as well. We must anticipate the unintended consequences and act responsibly when things go wrong. And we must be more defiant in our quest for equality. Women's equality and advocacy are issues that are close to my heart. Not least because of woman and a working mother, I've lived and experienced the struggles and challenges that gender equality poses firsthand. And I've worked my way up in this male-dominated tech industry and brought up my son alone. I've put a lot of pressure on myself to do it all perfectly. So many of you here today, too, have defied the odds and accomplished so much whilst trying to be perfect mothers, daughters, sisters, spouses, and friends. And the mantra these last few years has been all about leaning in, about women advocating on behalf of themselves, speaking out and actively participating in the conversation. Now, this is great, but what happens to those who can't get a seat at the table in the first place? One of the most inspirational women to me historically in tech has been Katherine Johnson. Now, her story was depicted recently in the movie Hidden Figures. She and her fellow African-American female mathematicians were truly the hidden figures behind NASA's successful Apollo space program. There's one scene in the film that I can watch over and over again, and that's when Katherine tries to gain entry into a control room full of high-ranking, all-white male officials, and she's told by her superior, "There's no protocol for a woman attending." Her response was classic. She said, "There's no protocol for a man circling the earth either." Now that says it all. Needless to say, without Johnson's calculations, that spacecraft would have skipped past the Earth's orbit and would have been lost forever. But the real lesson in what her boss said, he said that that's just the way things are. Well, that is just the way things are until someone stands up and says, "Nope, not on my watch. Nope, this stops here and now." Or no, #MeToo. If we want to escape the world where things are just the way they are, we can't be content with slight improvements along the way. Inclusion, diversity, and equality are more urgent than ever today. That's because we're at a point where technology is changing our lives in ways we could have never imagined. I am 7 months into a remarkable new journey as the chief executive of Benevolent AI. I work with some of the brightest minds in the world, and there's a lot of women there, I'm telling you. It's fantastic. The world that we are working to apply great science and technology to accelerate drug discovery and find treatments for an estimated 9,000 untreated diseases. It's a remarkable company, and every day we push the boundary of artificial intelligence and machine learning to unlock the power of data, to identify and understand the underlying cause of disease, and to develop new treatments for patients. Now, at this time of dystopian prophecies about machines ending humanity, it's important that we see the positive potential of this next wave. AI, applied in the right ways, will improve and advance our lives and will meet some of the world's greatest challenges, from providing adequate health care to clean energy, climate change, food security, and even eradicating poverty. But we must ensure that the application of AI will be an expression of the very highest ethical standards known to humankind. And the risks are obvious. This new technology will reflect our biases. Whether we intend it or not, machines reflect humanity's bias. And if you thought bias was hard to weed out in the real world, imagine when bias is baked into an algorithm that powers basic needs like healthcare, hiring decisions, and loan approvals. The real concern that society's gender equality problems could be reinforced and amplified by machine learning is a real one, and that biased data will influence the decisions that machines make on our behalf. Now, to understand the risks of not thinking ahead, we just have to remember what happened when we forgot to anticipate the unforeseen consequences of the tech revolution we are now living through. We were so focused on all the wonderful things that social platforms would do that we never stopped to think about what they would undo. Things that would challenge and upend our way of life. Things that matter like facts, truth, equality, and respect for one another. Human civility. And while our industry is paying the price for that now, so is our society. Now, as we develop the next wave of technology and apply AI to literally everything that we do, use, and experience, we have to be careful what we optimize for and who benefits from that optimization. We need to be cognizant of the biases baked into AI, and we need to think about and ensure beneficial outcomes for everyone. And how do we keep power in check? We cannot leave these decisions to others, and we cannot abdicate our responsibilities. I'll close by saying, as AI ethicist Shannon Valor has said, there's no independent machine values. Machine values are human values, and we need to protect these values now more than ever. Now, the way we protect these values is not by fighting our own battles or by standing our own ground as individuals. The way we protect them and protect ourselves is by standing together. And as fellow travelers on this brave journey, as we try to make the most of ourselves and leave the world a better place. Thank you so much.
Baroness Joanna, thank you so much.